Hi there, welcome back to Construction Executives Live. I am your host, Jeremy Owens, owner and founder of US Construction Zone and Three Generations Improvements out in sunny California. We made it through our big storms of December and January, and thanks for all your thoughts and prayers. It was a little wild for us, for California, that is. But we're back to sunshine, and all is right in the world again. We have a great show for you today. Thank you for being there here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to make this a priority. I see a lot of familiar names and faces, and I just appreciate your loyalty to what we're trying to do here. I said it from the beginning. We wanted to be a connection point for executives in construction, but we're realizing more and more that we need to be more than that. And one of them is the educational component that we like to bring with the Construction Executives Live. We want to be a place to have difficult conversations. We want to be a place that we really push those boundaries a little bit, maybe even make you and I a little bit uncomfortable. That's what we're here to do. So we appreciate, again, for you being here. A couple updates on our platform. We have three new pages that we are going to be rolling out live here in the next day or two. So we're really excited about those. The first one is we are going to be updating our Construction Executives Live page and housing all of our previous recordings on that page. We realize that we all have busy schedules. We can't always make the live show work. We want to make sure that these live shows live on forever, and we want to highlight our great speakers that we've had here, but we also want to make sure that we have that reference point for you guys at all times. So that is the first one. Second one is events page. So we are rolling out a construction events page. We want to make sure that all of our members and executives see the events that are happening in construction, and make sure you go to those events that make sense to you. The last one is a trade organizations page. Again, we want to be that reference point for the industry, and we want to do that for our trade organizations as well. So we have a map of the US. We have a way to search for trade organizations by topic. We have a way for you to click on that trade organization, get information, get involved in your community. Again, we want to provide some value to you, and hopefully these three pages do so. Again, like I said, we want to connect you all, but we also want to connect you to the right organization, event, or idea to get you and your business to the next level. And we hope we are bringing you guys some value. So thanks again. So we're really excited about this event. We have a great show for you today called Fixing the People Problem in the Construction Industry. For generations, the industry has struggled with high turnover rates, lack of loyalty, commoditizing our workforce, and a general lack of care and heart for our team. So we really want to make this year the year that we change all of that. And so we have a great speaker here today that has a lot of experience in this topic. And her name is Deborah Peters, and she's a global thought leader and professional speaker who has delivered keynote speeches and customized programs in over 17 countries, which is 17 more than I've done. So congratulations there. She's an expert in leadership, team development, and thoughtful business development, and she's host of the podcast, The Deborah Peters Show, and founder of Neuro Engineering Institute, where she guides business leaders into alignment with their highest potential, cultivating mastery of mind, life, and business. So please help me welcome Deborah Peters. Deborah, thank you for being here.
Wow, I'm excited. This is a great show we're doing today.
Yeah, thank you. And I know you're calling while you're traveling. You're in beautiful Mammoth territory, and for those who don't know, that's in Southern California area of beautiful, beautiful ski mountains and ski resorts. So you see, if she's got a little ice skate in the back of her, just make sure that doesn't fall on your head during the show.
I know, right? There's some hockey sticks up there too, but you just can't. They're just not in the camera view.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking time out of your schedule, and I know you needed a little R&R, which is we all need. So hopefully this is just adds to that R&R for you.
Absolutely. It's nothing's more, I guess, rewarding and fulfilling to me than being able to share some tools that'll help people achieve things easier and grow their companies. That's really the key. When you can grow a business by contributing to the people that are part of your business, their personal lives get better as a part of that, then that's really exciting.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, tell me a little bit about your career and like you have such a profound desire to find that deeper meaning of your lives. Where did that come from?
I think when I was a kid, I grew up on a farm, very sort of rural. We
Cool.
were, I don't know, maybe 30 miles from the nearest town. There was always this running joke um, where I grew up that if you wanted to talk to somebody, you had to drive for 40 miles. It was pretty remote.
Yeah.
Um, so it gave me an opportunity to really tap into my imagination and to keep that as a major pillar of
Hmm.
my character in my life.
Hmm.
And I never let that go. I think, a lot of people are conditioned to give up on that as they become responsible adults.
Right.
And so it's something that I teach because our imagination is the key to creating everything and
Right.
anything.
Right.
Um, and through that, a whole life experience of farming and ranching and animal husbandry and growing crops. And, when you're connected to the earth, you realize how energy flows and you
Hmm.
realize how important what you focus on is
Right.
and to stay out of the weeds of the negativity.
Sure.
So I just kept on that path and found ways to kind of channel that awareness
Right.
into business functions and streams of income and business relationship development. So
Yeah.
it's been a
Awesome.
journey for sure.
It seems like you found your passion. I mean, I think I share that constant curiosity thing with you where you never quite satisfied with someone telling you how it is. You need to go kind of figure it out on your own too. And I think that's a blessing and a curse for me personally. But yeah, I mean, I think you
Sure.
found your right career path. And like I said in the open, like we in the construction industry, we have a lot of issues, and they're really people issues. That high turnover rate is one of them, but the lack of loyalty, the way we commoditize our workforce, and just the lack of care we've generally had over many generations in the industry. As a speaker and a podcast guest and a host and all these things you do, and as well as a leadership developer for construction executives. How do you think we got here as an industry?
It's part of the paradigm of the industry, and it's something that hasn't really shifted and evolved with the times, so to
Right,
speak.
right,
You can look at different industries that have really evolved with a higher level of awareness or consciousness, if you want to call it that,
sure.
over time, where they've become more up to speed with what's working in the world. And
Hmm.
then there are some industries that have always, over time, sort of dug in their heels and hung on to the old way. It's like, well, we've done it this way for 20, 40, 60 years. So
Right,
why, and it works. So why would we change it?
right,
And the thing I'd
exactly.
like to say is, you know, it might work, but is it effective? Because that's
Hmm.
a very different bar to say. It might work, it might get you by, but
Hmm.
is it effective? Is it really producing the results that you want?
Right. It's almost like it's not sustainable like anymore. Like it used to be because, you had like the old guys club and it's like our way or the highway and like this is the way we've always been doing it. But now we have newer generations entering the workforce that aren't going to put up with that crap. So if you want your business to go beyond, like I'm in my third generation, if you want it to keep going another generation, I don't know if that's going to work anymore.
Well, it doesn't work. I have a client I've been working with since 2019. It's a construction company in Southern California, and it's a 40-year-old company. So we're into second generation.
Hmm.
Um, the organization, when I first started working with the son, who is the new CEO, the organization really had what I call, the fly by the seat of your pants business model,
Sure.
where it just was, to your point, this is the way we do it. This is the way we've always done it. We have these relationships. We make these deals over morning coffee or a beer some point,
Right.
and
Right.
then it flows, which at the time had its value because
Hmm.
we didn't have the ability to have the reach that we have now. So what's happening with that? Well, it doesn't, it's stagnant. Like it has these blocks around it which keep it from actually becoming what it could become. So
Right.
since 2019, we've really focused on first things first, the mindset. I like to use the word consciousness because what we're conscious of is what we become, and what
Hmm.
we're unconscious of are our blind spots. And those blind spots could be potential or money that we're leaving on the table. And they could all, those blind spots could also be how we block ourselves from accepting a higher level of understanding of what else is possible that we're
Hmm.
not willing to look at because we're holding on to the old way.
Right.
And that's really where the issue is. And it's not just the construction industry, you know, there's other industries that are similar, but unwillingness
Yeah.
it's that unwillingness to ask questions about, well, okay, we understand we do it this way and it produces this result. These are
Mm.
the KPIs for it.
Sure.
Um, if there's even an understanding of KPIs, but that's
Right.
another conversation, right? So
Right.
these are the KPIs for it. And so then the question would be, well, what else haven't we thought of yet? You know,
Hmm.
what else could we be doing that we don't know about, that if we were to ask different questions, we might be able to actually expand beyond our current reality, our current way of doing things. That's the piece that's missing.
Yeah, and it's just like just because we know we have the problem doesn't make it easy to solve. And I think it's harder for us to solve because we do have that. Uh, Unfortunately, we still have that mentality of this is the way it's always been done, and that little bit of a man's club still exists in some of the higher up executives that have been there for a long time, right?
Sure.
So just because you have the problem doesn't, sure we can talk about it, but it doesn't always make it easy to solve. So, I mean, what are you finding when you meet an executive that definitely fits this mold? Is it a hard conversation?
Well, it means directing and guiding the conversation to in a different direction.
Yeah,
So it's not about solving problems. It's about creating a focus on a new outcome or a new result.
right.
You'll never, you know, what it was Einstein, I'm probably going to, butcher the quote, but you never solve today's problems with the consciousness that created them. And
Right.
so you have to be willing, first of all, to have a dialogue with your team about what it is that you would like to create, and literally like turn the focus from here's the goal or here's the problem on the whiteboard, and
Sure.
like flip the whiteboard around and go, where would we like to see, or would we like to be? And just leave the
Hmm.
problem on the backside of the whiteboard,
Right.
because it's a higher level of I'm was just having this brainstorming session this morning. I
Hmm.
meditate every morning, and so always out of a meditation comes some kind of idea that I can implement. And I was thinking, like, what if I took the leadership and management retreats that we do, and I break them down even into a more refined topic. And so one would be uh, being more resourceful in your thinking. It,
Yeah.
it just really, Jeremy, at the end of the day, everything starts inside,
Hmm.
and gets out pictured and turns into something physical, whether it's an architectural design, the chair you're sitting in, the clothes you're wearing.
Yeah.
Everything is an imaginative
Yeah.
process before
Sure.
it's a physical thing. And
Yeah.
so that's what has to shift, is a desire to think beyond the current reality always.
Yeah, and I think about this one of the issues that we've had even before the Great Resignation, of COVID times is we've had high turnover rates. And
Yeah.
I think the big issue with the high turnover rates that I've seen is that we lack that the discussion of like caring about our staff, right? You lack that that really loyalty piece, because everything is just the job. Everything is do your job, do your job. And it's very little about recognition. It's very little about talking about their lives, their kids' baseball game,
Like, who
whatever.
are you as a person, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, for construction, I always joke that you can say how are you, but then you have to say it again, because the first one is always fine. You have to get, and maybe for construction guys, you have to do it a couple times. You have to ask them a leading question. You can't just say, how are you doing? You actually have to ask them something about
Yeah.
their life.
Well, so it's about being observant of what people are communicating beyond the verbal communication.
Right,
And I say this to everyone. It doesn't matter if you're in the building homes or commercial construction or industrial or making a chip, a widget business. And
right,
it's you on behavior. That's the leadership trait that is critical. You're not a leader. And maybe this is where needs to be some clarity in the construction industry is, are you a leader or are you a manager? You know, leaders lead, they're visionaries, they're creators, they're constantly thinking beyond the current realm of what's taking place, and they're going out
right,
with their imagination into these other realms of possibility, and they're playing with ideas. And
right,
then they're taking those ideas and they're mapping them out, and then they're presenting them to their team as a possibility and brainstorming the
hmm,
next level of thinking on it, which might be, well, we could do it this way, or how would we approach this? That whole resourceful thinking process is a leadership trait.
right,
Three energies you have to have in any business. You have to have a creator, you have to have a connector, and you have to have a mover.
mm,
So
yeah,
are you creating? The creator is the one that comes along and says, this is my vision. I'm passionate about it. Let me
right,
just, take this thing and communicate it to the people that I've surrounding me, and let's start to develop it into something tangible. Then
right,
you've got to have the mover that comes in and says, I can move this. I can
hmm,
move this. I can move this. I can move these ideas along. And then you have to have the connectors that say, I can connect to the people. Let me make a phone call. Let me shoot out a text or an email or
right,
head off to this meeting and shake some hands. You've got to have those three energies, flowing through your business. And I think what you're describing is in your industry, there's more managing going on
right.
than there is leading.
Yeah,
And
I think it's not just that, it's a title, right? Like I'm the owner, I'm the CEO, I'm that, so that automatically gives me the leadership.
but it doesn't
You know what
make
I mean?
you a leader.
That's kind of what it is though. Like in my experience, it's like you have the title, you've been there the longest, you're the owner, you're the guy, and then everyone looks to them for all the leadership.
But they might be the choke point
I know.
because they've been there the longest and they
Mhm.
have the title and it was their baby, and they might be the choke point.
Yeah,
99% of the time they are the choke point.
right.
And
Yeah, for
then there's the ego of that. It's like, well, I'm not going to, me? No, like this is
right,
my baby. Look what I've done.
right.
Yeah, but look at what you're not doing. It's about asking a higher level question.
Yeah, and I think that's hard. I think it goes to so many other things we're going to get into this is that if you're not right personally, you're not going to see that. You're going to miss that because it is your ego is going to get in the way, and there's a
Yeah.
ton of ego in construction, and there should be. We build things where we're very prideful people, but there's ego that gets in the way and makes you not even be able to see right what's right in front of you. Everyone else can see it, but you can't.
Sure. And so that really, look, at the end of the day, personal growth is should be the number one foundation to any organization, because if you're not evolving and have a high level of self-awareness, you are going to be the block.
Hmm.
And then the ego has to come in to compensate for your lack of self-awareness.
Mm,
It has to. Something's gotta, you know, be the cover up, right? Because,
right.
there's this saying like there's power in an apology, right?
Yeah.
And it's because when it comes from your heart and it's authentic, what it does is it opens up the potential of the relationship to be higher, to be a
Right.
higher level of relationship, to get past the problem that caused the thing that would require an apology,
Right.
That's a
Right.
lower level relationship.
Right.
But when you can, from your heart, apologize, you open things up. And I think that this is the transformation that needs to take place within your industry in particular, is that the people that are in charge are faced now with a reality that unless they grow themselves on a personal level and
Yeah.
be able to master, self mastery
Yeah.
is leadership.
Hmm.
If you're leading a company, you could get you could do very well with a very high level of self mastery and a very low level of industry
Yeah.
wisdom.
Yeah.
But you have industry experience and you have low level self mastery, you have a problem.
Yeah. That's going to be a sustainability problem. I mean, you just described something that I've said a lot of times, and I'm sure it makes people squirm, is vulnerability. Like if you can't
Yeah,
be vulnerable and say sorry, if you can't be vulnerable and check your ego at the door, it's going to be very hard for you to run a really successful business that doesn't have turnover, that doesn't have these issues that we're talking about, because you know just like what happened with the Great Resignation, people are looking at their jobs differently now. Life's different, and it should. Perspective is great. I like people that have perspective and go, hey, I don't want to work there anymore. I want to be happy. And
well,
so,
people are looking at their entire lives differently.
yeah, yeah,
Is this who I really want to be?
right,
And that's a big question.
yeah, no
talk
doubt. I
about
mean,
talk about self-awareness. It's like what's happening now and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I
no,
just
not at all.
wanted to like drop
No,
this in there. What's happening now is people are really asking themselves, is this how I want to express myself for this lifetime? Because it goes by pretty quick.
hmm,
One day you're 20 and the next day you're 60, and it goes by pretty quick, and asking yourself, like, is this really how I want to express myself?
right,
um and that comes down to a hiring process too. Are you hiring? Who are you hiring? I know a lot of people in this industry that when they hire new team members, they hire people they can control.
mm,
They don't hire people that are smart and have initiative because they feel threatened,
right.
when you're saying about ego, right?
Sure, sure. I mean, that makes total sense. I mean, I can think of it from my perspective in the creation of U.S. construction zone was a way for me to have a legacy piece, because I
Sure.
was questioning, hey, I'm prideful in what we build and what we remodel, and there's a lot of great things that happen, but it wasn't enough for me. Like I needed something else to leave behind, or maybe make my kids proud, or something that when I'm done, I'm like, I feel better now, as opposed
Mhm.
to just building a bunch of stuff, retiring, and that's it. Like I just needed that one extra step, I think.
Right. I
You
can
know?
relate to that totally.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I did
yeah,
the same thing. I'm doing the same thing. It's like when people talk about retirement, I'm like, what's that? I'll be creating till the day I kick the bucket.
I totally am the
Yeah.
same way. There's no way I'm going to be able to golf every day. There's no way.
Uh, yeah. I have so much to create. Like
Yeah.
my imagination is so robust. There's just
Mhm.
the possibilities are endless. And why
Right.
would you ever want to stop?
Yeah, I think that's where people struggle in retirement, right? Is like they're used to doing it a certain way, and then they stop that and they realize, crap, I'm not happy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely the same way with you. I'm listening to myself and going, I don't think so. I don't think so. But it brings up the next point I wanted to make, in that you said something that I'm gonna steal forever in one of our pre calls. You said The quality of our lives is directly impacted by the quality of our relationships, especially the relationship with ourselves. Tell me
Yeah.
what that means to you.
Everything. I mean, our relationship with ourself is the baseline for all of our relationships.
Hmm.
And I mean, if you really want to go deep with this, um,
Yes, I do.
okay, so let's go. So who we're being is outpictured as a projection into all of our experiences and all of our relationships.
Hmm.
And the problem with that is we have to take 100% responsibility of our own mental emotional state, which the new word for that is vibration. You know, your
Okay.
mental emotional state, your spiritual awareness, you know, you use the word vulnerability.
Yeah.
That all comes together as being our vibration, and our vibration is basically our state of consciousness, which is our self-awareness. I mean, these are all words that are like an expression of the same thing, right?
Hmm.
And I like to say that because a lot of people are like, well, what's the difference between this and that? It's like it's all the same thing. It's all comes together as who we're being as a human being. And that gets outpictured into our reality. And a lot of people really don't want to accept that because we are conditioned. It's a program. There's a program running in society that says if you're not getting ahead in life, it's somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
somebody did it to you. Somebody's holding you back.
Right.
It's an industry thing. It's an economy thing. It's you know your spouse thing. It's something,
Yeah.
and it's the perfect storm for victimhood, which is a black hole. We go down that path, and everything will have to mirror back to you that belief because you believe it so much, it's all your perception can see,
Gosh. Yeah.
right? Whatever we perceive, we are.
Right.
So, um, the relationship you have with yourself, if you can cease the judgment, just suspend the rightness and wrongness of it and see it only as feedback. You know, my
Mhm.
favorite saying, there's no failure, only feedback. If
Right.
you can see it as feedback to guide you to fine tune your vibration in the moment,
Hmm.
so get out of the negative self talk,
Right.
get out of the entertainment of the negative emotions or the limiting beliefs where you
Mhm.
think that it's happening to you, and stay in a place of appreciation and
Yeah.
just focus on feeling good and feeling happy. It's the
Mhm.
feeling that draws the experience in. It's the thought, the imagination
Mhm.
that sends it out into the ethers, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
consciousness,
Sure.
to be developed into a tangible thing. And then
Mhm.
it's the feeling of the thing fulfilled
Yeah.
that draws it into physical form where you get the inspiration to make the call, send the email, send out the drawing for someone's contribution to it of what they could do with it.
Sure.
It's just universal laws, spiritual laws 101. So when you clean up that relationship you have with yourself and you suspend the negative self-talk and how making yourself wrong for not being at a certain level of success at a certain age in life and like all of those
It's
social
just yeah.
constructs.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
So
that takes like I've been doing this all my life and I've been
yeah.
teaching this all my life. That's no small adventure.
Right.
That requires discipline because we have a whole program that's coming at us all the time. Oh, poor you, you're this you're this minority, you're that minority, you're this socially disadvantaged,
Right.
it's constantly bombarding us, and it keeps us from tapping into the God force within us that with with God all things are possible. And I hope everybody's cool with me using that word because
I am
it's
for
how
sure.
I create everything.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. So, do you subscribe to the thing that, they say in relationships so often that how can you love someone else if you don't love yourself? Because it is
100%.
difficult, right? Because like you said, like you have blinders on and you're not going to be seeing the reality of things. It's going to be the perception of things, and
Yeah,
it's always not going to look right. It's always going to be slanted. So do you subscribe to that then?
100%.
Yeah.
For about 10 years, I landed on this um, coaching platform of couples coaching. Just came. I was working with a lot of CEOs in developing their teams and their businesses, and then it just kind of like, well, could you meet with me and my wife? Like, this is what's going on, and some of these tools that we're using at work would be really good for our relationship. And it just kind of grew out
Right.
of that, very organic. And that was always the number one thing I would say to people is, how have you healed whatever you need to heal? And
Hmm.
how are you in alignment with your greatness? Because then you're not going to be, what do couples do when they're thinking about getting divorced is they point the finger at each other. It's like, you. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, but if you point one finger at the other person, and then there's three pointing back at you. So
Hmm.
really what it comes down to is me, 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 me. So what part of me needs to be loved?
Hmm.
And the parts of me that I have thought erroneously were unlovable, that if I just loved those parts, everything would be good.
It just said, like you said, the discipline part and the difficulty of that, of overcoming whatever that is that created that self-doubt, that all that negative self-talk, which is rampant, by the way. I mean, I would say it's at all
No.
time high, especially for kids. I have three kids that just,
Yeah.
I mean, the social media thing, it just, the chances of you having a good head on your shoulders at a young age is so much lower. I don't know. Maybe it's the not nature connection. There's a lot going on there, but it takes a lot of discipline to fix yourself. So
Well, okay, can I just say
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with you. You don't need to be fixed.
thank you for saying that.
Yeah. Let's start there.
Okay.
Because that's the first step is there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing to fix.
Yeah.
It's just loving yourself as you are.
Mm,
It's more of an acceptance.
yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And yeah, so, when you accept yourself, imagine in the construction industry, we've got a lot of alpha male energy going on, which, by the way, I'm a total champion of that. Do not stop being that alpha male energy. All I'm saying is channel it a little more effectively.
Mhm.
And you can channel it by actually practicing some self love, because then you're not going to be looking for the weakness in others.
Right.
You're going to be seeking out the strength in others. And then you're going to hire people that are empowered. And
Yeah.
when you have a staff of empowered people, as a leader, you never want to be the smartest person. There's
Yeah,
nothing
you're
to
right.
prove, right?
Right. Right. And you didn't assemble a good enough team. If you're the smartest person in the room, then you're missing something for sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it segues perfectly into, you had a talk yesterday about the impact of childhood trauma and what
Mm.
you're learning about what that means to workforce development, and just being a good worker. What are you guys finding out with all that?
Well, it's the root of all evil. It's it's the root of the problem, you when you have a corporation where there's a lot of folks,
Mhm.
then even if there's not a lot of folks, let me just say this. Every work dynamic is has its dysfunction,
Yeah.
just like your family,
Hmm.
and so what happens is this: in any work environment, you're a family unit, and always in every family, the person that is most dysfunctional always controls the family dynamic. They are, just through who they're being, they can upset everybody's apple cart pretty easy. And then people get triggered and then they're just reacting to each other's triggers. So
Okay.
all of this is like subconscious programming that takes place between 0 and 7.
Okay.
And so 0 and 7 are the imprint years. Whatever we expose our children to is what their model of the world becomes.
Okay.
And then past that, so 7 to 14 are the modeling years. So whatever that imprint was, 0 to 7, they're going to model that 7 to 14. And what I used to say when I was doing couples coaching and they were having problems with their kids, I'd say, who do you want your child to model? You and your relationship you have with your wife or your husband, or do you want them to model the gangbanger or the character on the video or the
Right.
character in the movie?
Right.
Because you have a choice in what you teach them by who you're being. And
Right.
then 14 to 21 are the socialization years. So now you get out into the workforce and
Hmm.
everything you've imprinted on and modeled through, it could be heinous, hideous, or it could be loving and kind,
Yeah.
shows up in the workforce because when you hire people, you hire their psychology.
Ugh.
It's unavoidable.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. I love that about people, and that I often look at people as children because of exactly what you described. You may be seeing their reaction, you may not like it, you may hate it, but I always go, there's a reason that they just did that. And like trying to tell that to my kids, like it's not, if that's an ongoing behavior for that person, then you got to be looking backwards and going, what brought them to that point, and thinking that that's an effective way of being a good person or a friend or a worker. But it's so true. Aren't we all just a bunch of little babies running around?
Mhm. Yeah. 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 With bigger toys.
Yeah, bigger toys and maybe a title that makes you feel like you've arrived. But man, it's humbling. It's scary though, like to think that and maybe a question for you is why is it in like a family dynamic that the one with the most trauma kind of wins out? Is it just that they're used to that like chaos in their own house, or what is that?
Beings that we actually have more than positive. They're called D1 and D2. And so we just on a numbers game in terms of our neurology, which is our nervous system, right, which is
Mhm.
where we get triggered. Um,
Yeah.
we have more negative neurons by design. And so it takes a little extra discipline and focus. That's my favorite word, focus. Takes a little
Mhm.
extra discipline and focus to tap into the positive neurons and to build those up. So in a family, those negative neurons that are firing when that dysfunctional person is in a dark place, a low vibration, it just is so powerful. It's just so impactful.
Mhm.
Now, to get past that, the family members, coworkers can work on themselves so that they don't take any of that on and they're not triggered by it. And
Right.
then it's just becomes something that you don't feed into, and
Mhm.
what you don't feed into doesn't expand.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you said that. It's just, man, I was thinking about like, talking about, a staff meeting or the way we in construction deal with our people. And, I often think that, what I've turned into with this business is a people business, and trying to diagnose and try to figure out why are we here and what do we need to do differently. But it really comes down to the heart. And I think that you and I share this similar philosophy, in that it's a hard thing to for people in construction to really kind of wrap their minds around, is that it's a hard issue. But what do you feel that is like? How do you go about diagnosing that if you're sitting across the table with somebody that doesn't have a good heart in terms of like getting to know their staff? How do you diagnose it, and what do you do?
Or maybe they're just not in touch with it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I would do is I would ask them why they're in the industry they are in. Like, what are you doing here? Why do you get out of bed every day to do this? Because we have drivers. Human beings have drivers. We're talking about retirement, right?
Right.
And so the human consciousness is designed to consistently seek more and more. You can't turn that off.
Yeah.
And when you go against it, and you try to stop creating, that's when the resistance comes in, and you actually don't feel well. You don't, maybe physically you don't feel well, maybe just, dissatisfied with your life, whatever. And so we want to raise awareness around what's driving behavior. So we're either moving toward what we want to experience as a tangible outcome that we can measure,
Okay.
or we're moving away from an emotional pain of something we no longer want to deal with. So one's a pain driver, one's a pleasure driver. So what I want to do is I want to get the business owner to reconnect with that pleasure driver,
Mm,
the why behind the company.
okay.
Why are we here? Why this industry? You could do anything with your life. Why aren't you like writing books or playing sports, or why are you building these homes or cell
Right.
phone towers, or industrial complexes? Why?
Right. Right.
And because there's in the why is the love of something.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
either it's either creating something out of nothing and building it, or it's seeing it come to fruition. Like, there's a why.
Sure.
So when we get back to the why, when we get the owners, let's say the leadership team, back to the why,
Mm-hmm.
then what we do is we anchor that new awareness of the love of the industry, or the love of the company, or the love of the business to the people.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
without the people, they have nothing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, how can we expect, our staff to run efficiently if A, they don't feel this loyalty with their boss or their team, but if they're not good in general, their mental health is poor at home. Like, we're not even really seeing the picture, right? We're seeing them in the office, in the staff room, and that's it. Like, we don't know what's going on behind closed doors with their house, with their family.
Yeah.
There might be a lot of trauma, there might be a lot of stress, but you know, as business owners, we're all about efficiency and profit and all this stuff, but we're missing this giant ingredient in that we're a people business, and we're not taking care of the people. We're
Well,
almost like they're a robot. I mean, I don't know.
yeah, I just think that it's just an old school of thought, an old paradigm that I remember when I first left college, I had like 3 jobs, and then I got my own business because
Right.
I just didn't want to have to deal with the way things were being run in
Mm.
different companies. And one industry I was in was the banking industry, and it was just so stoic. It was not fun at
Yeah.
all. You
Gotcha.
couldn't be creative. You couldn't come up with new ideas because they were totally frowned upon.
Right.
And that book, like, Who Moved My Cheese?
Sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the thing is this is, it's just an old school thought that really, I think, you're doing the right thing, Jeremy. You're questioning, and you're asking. You're not calling out the leaders in the industry. You're calling them up.
Yeah.
You're calling
Yeah.
them up to a higher level of function, a higher level of leadership skill set, a higher level of communication,
Mm-hmm.
and you're calling them up to a higher level of people awareness, which
Right.
comes with self-awareness, right? If
Right.
you're not, if someone that owns a company and they're employing people, and they're not aware of how their own moods, say emotional moods or mental stress or
Mm-hmm.
worry or whatever it is that's going on in them, is emanating from them and affecting the people around them, and they're wearing that on sleeve like it's a thing. If they're not aware of that, then they're obviously not going to be aware of other people's issues.
Right.
How could you?
Right. Right. And it just means that everyone's just so inefficient. Like, how many hours of the day are we actually working? I mean, it's just we're so preoccupied with these things in our life, right? And including the owners. Just because we're owners and managers doesn't mean that we're immune to this stuff. We have
Wow.
lives, right?
Yeah.
In some ways we have different stressors that are, we worry about payroll or, cash flow and things that, when you're not in that position of power, you don't have to worry about it. You just expect your check to be there. So there are different stressors, but I guess my point is, and I guess thank you for saying that, because it's more about calling to their attention that if you want them to be efficient, you do have to do these extra steps. And and it's a good thing to do anyways. You're doing the right thing by treating people the right way. So you're winning on both ends. You're winning by being a good person, and you're winning because it'll help your bottom line.
And then everybody's happier and you feel better and your body functions better and you make more money. I mean, it's just like it's all tied
Yeah, and you
together.
have loyalty. Then you have loyalty. Then
Yeah,
the next time someone tries to cherry pick them for more money, they'll go, you know what, I'm pretty happy with this team. I don't know. It seems to
exactly.
me. Yeah.
Because there's an emotional connection.
Mhm.
And I was working on this one project, and it was a construction company, and they're in telecom. So I was working with this one company for a while, and there was challenges of communication between the superintendents and people in the field and people in the office, and it was just kind of a mess.
Right.
So what we did is we started chunking out these. First of all, it was half day training modules, and then we did a full day. We kind of ended on a full day,
Mhm.
and I started to dig in with them on how to read body language
Mhm.
and how to understand, the nonverbal cues, because 55% of communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
It's what your body says, it's what the tone of your voice says, it's what your eye contact says. It's not anything other than that.
Right.
Then you get into the next level of communication is 38% of it is tonality, how it comes across. And that could be how you hold your body when you deliver the words, to
Right.
the tone of your voice, to the
Right.
volume of your voice, the pitch. There's a lot of sort of
Mhm.
little subtleties of that.
Yeah.
And 7% is content.
Wow.
So we worked on that. And
Mhm.
what that brought about, and I had them go through exercises where they practiced matching and mirroring each other and reading each other non-verbally with some of the exercises they didn't even talk. It was just all nonverbal. Because when you can master, you're picking it up anyway in your
Mhm.
subconscious. But whether you're consciously aware of what's coming across or not is a whole other conversation. So what I did is I have them do these exercises where they start to really pay attention to the energy that the other person is putting out. So instead of making them wrong for
Right.
something, they have an understanding. Seek first to understand, then seek to be understood.
Right. Right.
And what ended up happening, I mean, this is a group of tough guys,
Mhm.
okay, that have worked together for 20, 30 years. And what ended up happening is on the last full day, there were some tears. And it was like, I love you, man. And it was incredible. It was
Very.
incredible. And it changed the dynamic of that organization. And because it changed the way the CEO saw his guys,
Yeah, is there
and they
anything
knew it.
is there any advice you give? Like, I know that you're help guiding this. Um, is there any advice you give to, like, I mean, maybe it's an icebreaker, or maybe it's a changing the way you start a meeting. What can we do in our staff meeting or sales meeting a little bit differently to maybe change the tone a little bit?
Well, first of all, I would say that you need to have an effective meeting rhythm. And a lot of companies don't have effective meeting rhythms. It's one of the things I install when I do a consulting project with a company is I really look at their meeting rhythm.
Okay.
because all problems can be solved by having an effective meeting rhythm. And the way you break it down and what's covered on a weekly basis or a quarterly basis, I mean, that changes. And the cornerstone of that, here's like some free advice. The cornerstone of that is a daily huddle, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, keep it really brief and tight.
Yeah.
One company, I got them going on that and they resisted. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, they were just struggling. Like, we don't have time to meet. We got to get out in the field. And
Right.
so we finally mastered the huddle.
Okay.
And what ended up being said was, wow, I had no idea that's what you were dealing with. You know,
Mm.
they have no idea. They're so siloed. They have
Right.
no idea what's going on in the organization. And
Mm.
one CEO had this sort of self-created role, which was terribly inefficient, but he loved it. You know,
Yeah.
it's what he loved to do, but it was incredibly inefficient for the company. He liked to go around and like pick things up for people, drop things off, you know, visit different job sites, see what they needed. He was not a CEO at all. Like, who
Oh,
are we kidding? Who are we
yeah.
kidding, right?
Right.
So, but the thing is that once we implemented the huddles, he didn't have to do that anymore.
Oh,
It
okay.
just saves so much time. So the
Delegation.
thing is like you got to have these huddles and develop the teamwork. And then the second thing is rather than go in there as I'm the leader of this meeting, I'm doing all the talking, I'm controlling the dynamic, and it's my way.
Right.
You go in and you ask questions. Like with my team, when I have my huddles, I'm there to listen to what they've got
Yeah. Yeah.
because they're my team and I've hired experts. Why would I go in there and tell?
Right.
I want to know what are you guys up to? What's this? What solution have you come up with today? You know,
Right.
what are we creating next, and where are we going with that?
Yeah. I mean, it makes total sense. So, for someone who wants to get involved in executive, you're the founder of Miro Engineering Institute. So you get into a lot of these consulting, leadership development. What does it look like to be a client of yours?
Yeah, just just hook up with me on LinkedIn,
Okay.
and what we'll do is we can have an initial conversation. Obviously, there's no charge for that, and then find out where your company is at and where you think you want it to go. And
Okay.
then, because if it's a company-wide consult, then it's going to be a custom pricing.
Right.
But if you want to just stick your toe in the water and
Yeah.
start to develop some things, I do leadership and management retreats on two coasts, West Coast and East Coast,
Nice.
Newport Beach and Savannah, Georgia. So I try and, we'll probably add some more cities next year. We're developing some things around that. But for now,
Hmm.
I'm every other month. So I'm in Newport, March 23rd.
Okay.
And then I've got a retreat in Savannah. And we cover everything from negotiations, communications, raising your consciousness, your self awareness, self mastery, mentally and emotionally and spiritually. And then
Right.
how to bring that into your business. So it's not this thing that you learn over here, but you still don't know how to implement. It's
Right.
everything is a download, it's you
Right.
experience it and you download it into your business systems and processes and people,
Awesome. And
obviously.
do you promote that on LinkedIn then?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
we do. Yeah.
So all the people follow you. And then the other thing you do is your show, the Deborah Peters Show podcast.
Yeah.
It's fascinating because it's a lot about what we did today. It's just like you take an idea and then you really drill down on this idea, but they're always so thoughtful. Like, obviously it just fits you perfectly. Is that something that brings you a lot of joy?
Thank you. Yeah. Ever since I was a kid, like growing up on the farm, I used to set up this cardboard box in our living room, and I put a blanket over it, and that was my podium. I've
Okay.
always wanted to do something like this, and then I'd have my dolls and my cat and my dog, and they were my audience. And so it's a calling on my life to
Okay.
be able to get this information out to people. So we stream live every Tuesday,
Okay.
and there's 5 pillars that I cover. So health, wealth, relationships, self-expression, and business.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm gonna check
Yeah.
more of those. That'd be great.
I
And
got to
then
have you on. That's what needs
yeah,
to happen. I need to have you on as a guest.
I'm an open book. Whatever you need from me, I'm
I would
game.
love that.
I could talk.
I would love that.
So, and then
Yeah.
also you're a previous author of a book, and then you said you were working on another one, right? Is that coming out soon, or what's the status of that?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm on a deadline for submitting the material in March, and
Oof.
I think we'll probably, yeah, we'll probably publish and go to market in September.
Okay.
And and yeah, it'll be a hardcover plus a Kindle.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's
So
the title and content of that?
it's really about expanding your conscious awareness,
Okay.
and how you take that conscious awareness and you turn it into your own growth.
Mm,
Because there's really no limit, we're infinite beings.
right.
We are. All of us are. We're our unconscious or our subconscious mind is capable of, it's greater than all the grains of sand on the planet. It's 10 to the 10 to the 10th power. And it's just realizing that and tapping into it,
Yeah.
and anything's possible from there.
No doubt. Well, I appreciate you being here today, Deborah. It's been very enlightening. I feel like I've kind of gone through a meditation myself. So thank you so much for being here, and let's make sure to follow each other's content. And
For
I'm
sure.
here to help. I just want to make sure that executives in construction start to feel and touch and get their senses a little bit more right. And I think it'll really they'll reward them personally, but also their businesses. So that's really my goal, and I think you nailed
Yeah.
it. So thank you.
You're doing it. You're doing great work. Keep going.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, we'll stay in touch.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to go hit the slopes and catch a half day skiing.
Lucky, lucky. All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All
Bye.
right. Bye. Thank you for being here for another episode of Construction Executives Live. I am still your host, Jeremy Owens. I had a great chat with Deborah, and like I said, I feel a little at peace, and a little bit struggling too at the same time. So I got a lot going on, but um, please take a look at the chat. We do have another show coming up. We have the link there. The topic is going to be great. I just clicked on Michael Lang. Sorry about that, Michael. The topic is time to move the industry forward by empowering the next generations of leaders. We have Corey Fisk, who is an educator, and she's a manager or project manager. She's been in the field, but she's also been in the classroom, and she's going to help us learn those strategies and skills to transition our team members from the job site to the office. And we're going to understand how to do that next month, March 1st, 10 a.m. Pacific. Please click the link. Get subscribed right now, so you don't. It's already on your calendar. You don't have to worry about it. But thank you guys for being here. Another fun time. I appreciate all of you guys listening and tuning in. We'll see you next month. Bye.